Hello everybody, welcome to Also Rusty Bucket. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already and drop a like on this video. I'm trying to hit 100k subscribers on this channel by the end of the year, so your subscription would be much appreciated. Also drop a like on this video, it only takes 1 second and makes a massive difference. Okay, so last game of the day ended up being a lot more interesting than the first two games. Ended up being blowouts. The Heat won by 42 points and the Hawks won by 26 points, but this time around the Golden State Warriors beat the Los Angeles Clippers by just 2 points. This is a very good game and the best one that I have watched thus far this season, because unfortunately I missed that Knicks-Celtics game. But let's get into it. So the first thing that I want to talk about is the Clippers side of things, just because I have a lot to say about the Warriors side, so let's just get the Clippers stuff out of the way. Reggie Jackson. You know, I made a point when I talked about the Clippers and what they'd look like this season that a lot of people were acting as though Reggie Jackson being in, like, playing the way that he did in the playoffs last year was just like a foregone conclusion. And I was always like, hey, you don't know that that's necessarily the case. First game of the season, he goes 4 for 19. He did hit some big shots here or there, but for the most part, not a good game from Reggie. Paul George is fantastic, and he was specifically... Well, actually, I don't know. He was fantastic in the second quarter, and then he didn't do a whole lot after that. He had like a 16-point second quarter, something like that. The Warriors had gotten to a really big run because of what Steph Curry did in the first quarter. We'll talk about that later if I don't forget. But they got a good run and they had a decent lead. They scored over 40 in the first quarter, and then Paul George came in and scored like 18, 20 points in the second quarter and got the Clippers back in it. Marcus Morris didn't do a whole lot in this one outside of he shoved Jordan Poole, and it was called a jump ball, and it was fucking ridiculous. Zubac also got some stuff going early, especially because there was a lot of small ball in this game from both sides of the equation. But he only played 17 minutes because the negative side of playing Zubac against small ball is that he's going to get burned in a lot of lineups, and that's exactly what was happening. So didn't play a whole lot as a result, and Terrence Mann really filled in that rotation spot as they went small with Marcus Morris at the center position. They even had lineups that was like Justice Winslow was the biggest player on the floor. It was certainly interesting. So yeah, there's that. Luke Kennard came in and did some stuff offensively, had a couple of nice assists. That was cool. But for the most part, there was nothing to stand out. Actually, I'm surprised Eric Bledsoe had this good of a game. I know he didn't play bad, but he had 22 on 10 for 16. All right, Eric. Sometimes that happens. Sometimes a guy doesn't really stand out that much when he's actually having a good game, but Eric had a good game. I was really just looking for Eric to make mistakes because that's what Eric Bledsoe typically does, and good job, Eric. On the Warrior side of things, though, the title of this video is going to be something like Steph Curry is ridiculous, or he's not real, or something like that. But, you know, that wasn't the lone reason why they won this game, but it was definitely the biggest one because Steph Curry finishes this game with 45 points. He also got 10 rebounds to 1 assist, which is definitely a very odd thing for Steph Curry. Sorry if I keep scratching my eyes. I don't know what's going on, but I itch. He scored 20-something. I think it was like 26 points in the first quarter, and he didn't miss a shot. He either went 8 for 8 or 10 for 10. I know he at least at one point was 10 for 10. I don't remember if he made some shots going in the second quarter, but he made all of his shots in the first quarter, and it just was insane. I believe he hit 3 threes in back-to-back possessions. You know, just some Steph Curry stuff that's from a video game that otherwise you'd be like, that's just not possible, but then it's Steph Curry, so it is. Outside of that, Andrew Wiggins in this game was pretty frustrating because he was doing some of his old habit, bad mid-range shots, bad mid-range face-ups, pulling up in his defender's face without creating any kind of space. And then, speaking of bad offense, Jordan Poole was horrible today. 7 turnovers and 4 for 14 from the field overall. The biggest reason why he shot so poorly is a lot of threes, a few threes that were like a little gutsy, which he's been taking those, but they were not dropping today. But more importantly, a lot of drives where he got the blow by. His first step is really good. He got by his man but he just kind of went into traffic and didn't know what to do with it. There were multiple instances there, so that's where a lot of the turnover stemmed from. Was he made the drive? Oh shit, there's defense all around me, and then he tries to make a desperate pass and it gets picked off, or he just went to the rim and then there was a couple of different plays where he threw it over his head, and it's like, this is not going to work. Jordan Poole has a lot of confidence, and with the skills that he has, that can result in good things when the skill and the confidence are meeting. But today, the ability did not match well with the confidence that he was bringing to the table, and at a certain point became frustrating. That said, not going to read into it too much because it's his second game of the season, but not a good outing from Jordan Poole, who did have a good outing. I don't know. He wasn't that great, but in the fourth quarter, he hit 2 really huge threes. That was Damian Lee. There was one three-pointer that was from a Warriors run that was done with Steph Curry on the bench, and we'll talk more in a second about the Warriors overall without Steph. But he capitalized and put the Warriors ahead of the Clippers after the Clippers had like an 8-point lead in the fourth quarter by hitting a corner 3 that was absolutely huge, and then he hit another one later in the game. Other players that stand out from their bench would be Otto Porter Jr., Nemanja Bjelica, and Andre Iguodala. Really the same players that stood out last time. Andre, all 3 of his assists felt huge. All 3 of them. He had one in particular that was in like the last 2 minutes of the game. I think the last minute of the game. Yeah, it was the shot that put the Warriors up 4 with like 50 seconds left. I don't remember who it was. Got it to Iggy on the baseline towards the dunker spot. He made a very great pass to Draymond Green, who hit a very difficult layup. Speaking of Draymond Green, I actually hadn't talked about him. He also had a great game. A lot of tough finishes. And I know the meme is Draymond, like he gets a layup over like a 6-footer and then he flexes. But like he had like 3 or 4 layups on a big man, so there's something there. He did flex on one of them. That was an and one where I'm pretty sure he missed the free throw. But yeah, Otto Porter also played good. He had one very nice backdoor pass out of the post to Jordan Poole. Nemanja Bjelica did some similar stuff to what he did before, just not to the fullest extent. Right spot, right time. Did he get 3 dunks? I know he had 2 at least. Just a couple of instances where he was in the right spot. And if you look at the plus minus of this game, you will notice the plus minuses for the Warriors. The bench unit and not Stephen Curry actually are in the positive. And that's because they just went on a run in the fourth quarter. They did a little bit in the second quarter as well as Steph Curry started to cool down. There was one rotation that Steve Kerr put out there that was Otto, Iggy, and Juan Toscano-Anderson on the floor at the same time. I believe Otto was playing center in that lineup, and there was Jordan Poole. And was it Damian Lee was the other guard? I believe that was the lineup. But it was really interesting and pretty effective. Otto Porter Jr., there was one play, I won't forget it. I almost did, where there was a defensive stop. I don't remember how the defensive stop happened, but it was an impressive defensive stop. And then a pass out to Jordan Poole, who threw a lob to Otto Porter. And I was like, Otto is in good enough shape to catch that, because I haven't seen Otto Porter in game shape like that since he was with the Wizards, or since the 15 games he played with the Bulls and was averaged 17 points and made me think there was hope, and then proceeded to be injured for 90% of his tenure there. His contract got us Nikola Vucevic, though, so I won't complain. But he was fantastic, and not particularly stand out in this game, but he was good. Everybody on the Warriors was good, and what stood out about the Warriors, as I mentioned earlier, the bench was good, and they were good without Steph on the floor. And the reason for this is not even necessarily because the overall talent level has changed that drastically. I don't actually think, in terms of the talent on the Warriors, it's that different from what it was last year. But what's different is that these players all fit within the Warriors system. These players all know what the Warriors are trying to do, and they do it well. Juan Toscano was the guy from last year who, one of the reasons why he was such a big part of the rotation as the year progressed is he continued to show that he fit in with what the Warriors tried to do. He's a defensive forward who has playmaking ability and can hit an open three. That's the type of guy that fits well with what the Warriors are going to do. And Nemanja Bjelica, last game, the one that he played versus the Lakers, his playmaking stood out. The way that he was able to fill lanes and be in the right place at the right time. A couple of smart shots off of the dribble, attacking the rim, things like that. In this game, Andre Iguodala. Iggy, in the 2 games that I have seen with him in the Warriors in the regular season thus far, has had more impact on the game than I've seen of any other Heat game or whatever else. I don't think he never played for the Grizzlies. So yeah, any Heat game he played. This is the biggest. I guess there was that one finals game where I'm pretty sure he hit like 3 3-pointers or something like that, or it was some playoff game. Other than that, Iggy actually feels like he has a real value to bring to a team now that he's back with the Warriors, because he fits with the system so well. The playmaking, the passing, those are kind of the same thing, but just the way that the ball goes around the floor, they're looking for the open shot, the guys who hit the open shots, just a lot different of a vibe with this Warriors team from what we got last year, and that's what's going to be the difference maker in terms of this team being a contender. I've said this a couple times now, I think I said this back when I did the day 1 recap. The Warriors, sorry, not the Warriors. What's my tangent that I'm about to go on? Oh yeah, the Warriors are not going to be a contender just solely based on Klay Thompson coming back, especially with the potential of his injury making him a worse NBA player. But it is the chemistry that's with this team, on top of the fact that their internal improvement is just that significant. The improvement that they made last year as the year progressed is that significant. So I think the Warriors are going to be a contender level tier team when Klay Thompson comes back, but that's not going to be the sole reason why. They've made a lot of improvements to where, no doubt in my mind, the Warriors are a playoff team this year. And yeah, that's my thoughts on this game. I do want to add a note here on the end. I'm probably not going to be doing a post-game recap tomorrow. I have been doing so much fucking housework lately. Like, it's all that I have been doing, like 24/7. And I need to literally give myself a break mentally and physically. So I'm just going to watch the Bulls-Pelicans game. I might make a video on that game if something like crazy happens or something really interesting happens, or I have some sort of rant, but otherwise I'm just going to leave tomorrow off because I need to give myself a rest. As much as I love the NBA and the fact that it's back, I need to chill. And when you do this the way that I do it, watching games in a way that's my job, it can be a little exhausting sometimes after it's being done of a day of a lot of exhausting things on top of it. So like, I'm already wiped out by the end of the day, and now I gotta watch 3 NBA games and then record videos on it. I can do it, but it's a little tiresome, so I'm going to give myself tomorrow as the break, so that's why there will not be a video. I'm pretty sure I would have only gotten like 3 comments asking why there wasn't a video, but whatever. I felt the need to tell you why. But yeah, I mentioned this in the last video about the Hawks and the Heat game. A new episode of the My NBA series is going to be out tomorrow, or it's actually technically today because it's 1 a.m. when I'm recording this, but if you've been keeping up with that series, that will be out. Sorry for the delay. As I said earlier, I've been moving. So, yeah, that's it. Goodbye.